And here we are. Hi, everybody.
Hey, what's up, Doug?
Hey, guys. Hey, Doug.
Oh, my gosh.
Long time no see.
Yeah. What are we at? 6 months now?
I know.
6 months.
I know.
And it's great to see everybody here. Hey, season 10, guys. We lucky. We got season 10 in less than 8 years. How cool is that?
It's a pretty big deal.
The fact that we've made it this far, and I mean, somebody asked me how many Smiths I've met, and I don't have the math for it anymore. I mean, we've done over 250 shows, with the average of 4 Smiths per, and I mean, it's amazing how many people that we've come in contact with as bladesmiths, as competitors, and how large our community has gotten.
It doesn't count
it doesn't count all the people we meet outside of the show that are also Smiths.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's not, when we came to this, I wasn't part of the night world. I wasn't part of I was sort of in my own niche doing the theatrical stuff. So it's been wonderful, the acceptance in the community.
Yeah, and just to make sure,
the trust they're given.
Just to make sure everybody knows, Dave is not sitting in the toilet. Dave, what exactly are you doing? There we go.
A tattoo as we speak.
There's no saying if he is actually sitting on a toilet, though.
Yeah, no.
Dylan Smith at Fable Tattoo.
So it's Dylan Smith here at Fable Tattoo is actually working on my sleeve here. So
what are you getting?
My right arm, it's turning into a map.
Nice. That's the nautical side?
Basically the Chesapeake Bay.
Is the right arm your nautical side?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's the side with the bee monsters and the compass.
So when you die, we have to skin your arm and then bring it around and find the treasure.
Map.
Exactly.
Map.
Exactly.
No, we each get a
gross.
chunk that we get to make like a necklace or a keychain out of.
Yeah, make a wallet out of it.
Hey, hold on. Who says I'm dying first?
I mean, let's be honest, Dave.
I might be older than all of you.
No, you take the most risks too.
I think it's the motorcycle and the whiskey that's going to get you.
Probably. But just as long as they don't combine the two, I should be fine.
And talking about the bladesmiths we've met, one of the coolest things is that we are generating our own contestants. Young kids who are now bladesmiths at this age eventually compete on the show and do very well. That's what I love about the meet and greets, are meeting these young kids in their 14, 15, even as young as 8 years old, showing me their works. And I'm telling them, one day I expect to see you on the show to compete. That would be awesome.
It's not just that. We also get retirees that see the show that decide they want to start smithing and make it onto the show and compete and do very well. It's phenomenal.
I just make sure to remind them that
vets as well, doing it.
I just tell them, just make sure that you learn how to do, we have it's a competition. It's a competition about problem solving, but learn to make a blade the right way. Nobody does it in 3 hours and 6 hours. So everything that they do is just make sure you go out there and research and do it the right way, the way normally, knowing a blade is normally done.
That's one thing, like a lot of Smiths that come in the show, before they go compete, we get a couple minutes to talk to them, right? And everybody comes in expecting to make their best. And that's not what this competition is about. We want to see their different skill sets, how they work under pressure of the clock, the competition against each other, and the competition against themselves in front of you guys, which so many of these Smiths look up to as the judges of this show that's been going on now 10 seasons, which is absolutely freaking bonkers.
Well, on that note, one of the things that I really appreciate from the fans is, and the Smiths as well, is the trust that they give us. The fact that they trust us to judge their work. I was asked to judge the last night standing thing coming up this year, last blade standing, and I mean that's really an honor.
Yeah,
it is
to receive that kind of literally trust from people. I'm often asked, what I think of people's knives. They'll send me a picture. I always tell them it doesn't matter what I think.
Yeah.
Unless you're competing or taking a class, my opinion shouldn't be what you're basing your thing on. It should be, what do you think? What do you think of your work? Is that what you intended to build? That's the important part.
On that note, I got a question for you guys. Like, when you are judging blades, Dave, you're saying it doesn't matter what you think, because it's very subjective, A blade is subjective, especially for the maker. But if you were gonna go buy a blade, which, you know, Ben, Dave, you don't necessarily need to do. What criteria are you looking for in a blade for yourself?
Personally, I have bought a couple blades lately, and it's all about the maker. It's people that I connect with. I mean, they have to be a good blade, but like I bought a automatic blade from Billy Bob, and I love the dude, and he's retired, and he's not making knives anymore, and he's put one up for sale. I'm like, I'm on it. I want that one.
That thing is sick.
It's amazing.
And it is, because, you know, and go ahead. So yeah, it's one of the things, you know, that's very true. Exactly, Ben, because we see so many blades, and a lot of times it doesn't matter what's in my hands, is what I do with it. But I also like blades from people, like, you know, all of a sudden, lately I've been working with Lynn Ray and Jerry Fisk and all. I want their blades because who they are. I want to own a piece of them, you know, and not just see the different blades that are out there. So it's very true that you said that. You know, it's very interesting. Lately, because I have so many knives already, the ones that I asked for are from the people who make them, because it's them, you know.
I wind up bleeding on most of my stuff, so everyone's getting a piece of me when they buy one of mine. But I have a tendency to lean towards the historical stuff and things like that. So when I look at blades that excite me and blades that I want, they're always what's the right word? They look like they're from the period. They don't look like they're manufactured. I'm not a fan of manufactured blades. I mean, there's plenty of them out there that are great. They're nice. I just did my first run of manufactured blades, but what I always look for are things that look authentic. They, you know, if something's going to be hanging, if I'm going to do a Western thing and I've got a knife hanging off my gun belt, I want it to look like it was made then, not
probably
now.
Not stainless.
Yeah,
right.
It's that vibe of, you know, when you go to a museum and you see even the stuff that's, go for it. Needles coming if I squeal. When you go to a museum and you look at something and it's the real thing, it just has a different look. I mean, it's the hand make, the work that goes into it. That stuff is what really excites me.
Nice. How about you, Ben?
Like I said, the people, you know, I often buy from people I respect, but also like Dave and I separately went to Barcelona and stopped at a store and bought a Navaja from a little store in Barcelona, where I walked in, I was all excited. They recognized me, and then I look over and there's a picture of Dave Baker and the owner of the store, like with his arm around. So I was like, you have to take a picture of me too and put me in front of Dave. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, I don't buy a lot of knives, you know, because pretty much anything I want, I you know, not to sound silly, but I walk through a museum like, I love that, and I do the best I can to have that. I wouldn't really go buy one from someone else because, you know, it's just kind of a thing. But I am now buying from people I respect, and I think that's an important part.
For you, is it ever like an investment, or is it you want a piece of that person's art?
Yeah, I'm not going to sell Billy Bob's knife. I mean, I know too many people that have bought things that they really loved, sold them, and then regretted it for the rest of their lives. You know? Yeah.
I'm the same. I buy. I mean, Ben's been to my place. I've got antiques, but I use them all. I mean, I've got antique tools that I use. I've got books in my shop that people scream, "Oh my God, those books are getting dirty. They're getting ruined." Those books get used. That's research material. So when I buy something, I buy it to use, not to hang it on the wall.
Yeah. And that's an important point, because there are a lot of blades out there. Go, which blade do you like? Well, how many knives do people buy because they're so expensive or antiques that they never use? They're just dust collecting. You know, that's why I tell people, be a user of the things that you create. And that's for you bladesmiths, because then you can make all the adjustments to make it even better. But then if you buy something, it's just to be for an antique piece, that's just going to collect dust. And how many space do you have for that? Now I've got so many knives that are collecting dust, you know, so which are my favorites? The one that I don't mind using all the time. And that's why I have to rotate through the blades and go, well, what's your favorite knife? I can't say that. I got to rotate through everything that I've got.
I have a hard time with that. Like, I understand, like, Dave, you use the antiques that you purchase. I personally have this single action army that is hand engraved by a master engraver that no longer does engraving. I haven't shot it. I will probably never shoot it.
Oh, and no, I look, I get it.
It's hard. I want to.
My cousin has a set of shotguns. It's a 12 gauge and a 20 gauge match set with engraving. And I grew up shooting these things. Well, he took them, they had them cleaned. And the guy in the shop said, no, you can't shoot these. These will put your kids through college.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. Like, I didn't know what this was worth. It was I've had it for a long time, but as much as I want to shoot it, I'm a firearms guy for sure.
Yeah.
I can't bring myself to it. I've got an old antique.
I'll tell you what, you bring it to my place, we'll go shoot it.
No, I'm not putting it in.
But Grady, let me say, here's what I endeavor to do when I make, especially bigger things like swords, not like a working knife, but a sword or anything bigger like that. I want it to look beautiful enough that you'd be happy to hang it on your wall. But I want it to be the first thing you grab when the zombies come through the front door. So
this thing's got a really long barrel.
And but my meaning is any of these will go through Forged and Fire testing, no problem. As a matter of fact, all of these have the three behind me, you can see. And so I make them all sort of that scale, and the heat treat is all exact. I mean, you may not want to cut it through a barrel because it might scratch it or you get a ding on it. So I understand not wanting to.
I like the Virginia. You could go over the direct. Yeah. Sorry.
So quick question, guys. So, we're going to be sharing this to our social media and the followers of the show. What's your biggest takeaway from Forged and Fire that you can say, is a takeaway from that? What do you love about the show that we're part of?
For me, it's the fact that we are inspiring people to make, to build, to do artwork, whether they're forging or not. People look at a show like ours and they realize that they can do something. Mm-hmm. Even if we were like the British baking show or whatever.
I love it.
All of those shows, but they all inspire people to go out and do something. And I think, when I hear from parents of children who tell me that their kids no longer spend all afternoon on a video game, they're out in the garage hammering metal.
Trying to burn the house down?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, we all do that once or twice, but comes with the game.
What's funny is as a joke, I was going to say my biggest takeaway was $20,000 in winnings, right? But in actuality, my biggest takeaway was the $20,000 I donated to Black Horse.
Yeah, same here.
I've gotten so much feedback from that. That name, Black Horse Forge, has inspired a completely other school. This guy emailed me and he's like, how do I get started? I'm like, well, go talk to those guys. They gave him advice. He bought this piece of land in Pennsylvania. He built an entirely new school, and it's Healing Flames Forge. It's just this, and the number of times somebody's grabbed me by the shoulder and been like misty-eyed telling me how much our show has changed their life. Yeah, it's great that it's making people make, but it's also great that it's making people forget and be in the moment. And, like the number of veterans and people that have had all sorts of trauma in their lives that have found peace through this show.
Oh, yeah.
Ready?
I came into this from a completely different background than any of you guys. And jumping right onto it, I was astounded by how large this community is, how tight this community is. Honestly, if you asked me before I stepped foot in the forge the first time, how many blacksmiths or bladesmiths there were with working forges these days, I would have probably said roughly 1 or 2 per state. And that is wildly false. On the other hand, I've learned how difficult it is to host a show and wrangle you sons of bitches.
What are you saying?
For me, coming from a martial art background, and I was really in the medical field as my profession prior to this, my takeaway in looking at it, because I don't have that healing, that exchange of energy anymore with people, whether it's in martial arts or in the healthcare field, where you have an automatic change around, you make them feel better, they breathe and all that. So what am I doing in media? I think emotionally, the takeaway I have is we are making memories, gentlemen. And what I mean by that is a lot of times I look at, where I'm looking at old TV shows like, oh, I used to watch that with my grandfather. I used to watch it, and it brings me back to a different time. We're doing that for people. A couple of times I'm on TikTok and everything else, and I see the message from the young. He goes, the one that really was so meaningful is I used to watch this with my grandfather, and I used to sit on his lap watching this, and he's gone. Now when I watch your show, it's as if he's still there with me.
Wow.
You know, so it brings
That's
back those
awesome.
things. You know, I watch that and I put on these shows because sometimes does the competition matter? No, the over feeling matters. That I can sit down and watch this and all the memories and fun times with my family. And we know this, it's a family show. For me to know that we are part, that somebody will say and look at us when we're way past gone on reruns later on, and look at us and finally remember, I used to watch a show with my kids, my grandkids or whatever, or my grandfather and everything else. That's my takeaway.
You know, though we may be a family show, I still think we need to do Forged in Fire After Dark.
But you know, it's amazing to me, like you're talking about that from their perspective. For me and Grady, we just had sons. We have kids around 2 years old that in 40 years, or, you know, in Grady's case, 80 years, we might be gone. And they can still watch us being dumbass little kids on TV, you know, just running around having fun, you know, like they can, I have like very few videos of my father. He passed about, you know, whatever, 8 years ago. I have some. Could you imagine being able to sit and watch 10, well, in my case, 6 seasons of your dad doing stuff and you know, like one season or one episode, I got to make a billet that I'm going to give to him and he can watch that episode and remember. And that just like, it's giving me goosebumps right now thinking about that.
It is pretty cool. We're living our own, I mean, everybody's living their own memories, but this is, as I sit down and think about it, this is something, this time right now, just sitting here on Skype talking to you guys, you're my coworkers. How freaking crazy is that? Like, we're going to look back at this period of our lives where we spent tons and tons of time together, making television shows, giving out $10,000 each one to somebody who's a maker, helping them make their memories. Mm-hmm. Like, this is freaking awesome. We are some of the luckiest guys alive.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And to be remembered that way,
I'm about to scream because I got a needle in my arm.
I always used to say this joke to my kids that one day they're going to look back and go, you see that old guy in the corner there playing with his poop? He's to be the it will kill guy.
Now his poop will kill.
You can see 5 years into the future?
5 years? Oh my gosh. I think hopefully more than that.
Yeah.
But then, you know, here's another question. Tell the audience, you know, our followers, something about yourself that we've never discussed in an interview before, has not been asked of you that you've been wanting to share.
Oh,
we should have been prepared for this one.
Yeah, I know. I'm throwing it at you, but you know, sometimes they ask you because a lot of times when we do interviews, it's stuff already we've spoken about. We've said the same thing over and over and over, but what is it? You know, if I get to say something, I wish I could say there. What do you want them to know about you that has not been asked in an interview yet?
I got one.
All right.
A lot of people don't know that I started my television career as a contestant on television shows. The first 2 or 3 shows I was on, I was in the same shoes as the Smiths, obviously doing something different. But it is just standing up there watching these guys and gals share their craft while going through the intensity of the competition. Like, I feel for them. It is so much more intense than what comes off on camera. All the emotions that are like surging. I mean, Ben, you guys, you know, you've done it. Yeah. It is an unbelievable feat, not only just to come and compete, but to be there under the clock, under your guys' eyes, knowing that your work is about to be judged in front of the world. This isn't just a U.S. show. This is across the globe. It is intense. And I've been there. It sucks.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing that doesn't come across, and it doesn't come across usually because of the editing of the show. I mean, we shoot for hours, and you know, there's only minutes of us on any given show. Is how awful it is when you actually break somebody's blade.
Yeah.
When you take a blade and you do destructive testing with it. I mean, with your own blade, you're trying to see how much it'll take. But when you've got somebody else's blade in your hand and you're smashing it against a pipe or a well or a piece of something that never should be hit with a sword, it's just terrible. I mean, it's the worst thing about the job is when you literally smash somebody's work.
Yeah.
That they've put their heart into. And here I am crushing your dreams.
Our job at that point is to see, is there one of these 3 that's worse than the others? Can one of these get through this test? Yeah. So, is it by this test? Am I going to open up the idea that there's terrible grain, there's internal fractures, there's a bad geometry, there's a bad shape, any of that stuff, bad handle? That's what we're trying to find. Not necessarily like, can any of these things survive? Except for the torpedo chopper.
I think one of the things I want to share with the audience that they don't know about us as judges is we're not there to destroy we have to find a winner. That's why we're judges. But the most important thing is we forget that these are weapons made for a specific reason that are very dangerous. There are a lot of protocols for safety that we definitely have that people don't see. We just don't pick up a weapon. As a matter of fact, all the judges here, we don't get to test the weapons before we test it. In any other thing that's dealing with weaponry, whether you're firing a gun or you're testing a blade, you familiarize yourself with that weapon before you actually use it or train with it. We as judges don't get that. So they rely on our expertise that we do a lot of this. But remember, there's a lot of safety rules that we follow. Because if they break, we don't get to test it. I don't know if this is going to explode in my hand or where the blade's going to go. We were trained, we do a lot of it. But the couple of times that we disrespect the weapon will let you know. There's no second chances, right? So, even though we love to take somebody's work and test it and everything else, it is a very dangerous thing to do. Because one of my biggest worries is somebody just goes home and recreates a test on their own, thinking without any training, they're not wearing glasses, where the blade's going to go, if it breaks or anything else. And that's one of the things that I want people to know. We are very conscious about safety.
Hey, Dave, can you mute if you're not talking? Can you mute if you're not talking? Because there's a lot of chatter. It makes it difficult to hear.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to mute it.
That's high tech.
It's the microphone button on your phone.
There is no microphone button on my phone.
Fine.
There's certainly a microphone on your phone. I'll tell you something that this is going to sound funny, but the thing that I want everyone to know about us is something I hear from people that meet me. They say, wow, you really are as chill as you look on TV. I've always wondered about, are they as cool? Are they fun to be around? And, there's the phrase, never meet your heroes, because, you might not get what you're hoping to get. But I've never, I've met a lot of people that have met all of you, and they say the same thing every time. It's just like, you guys are just so much fun. You're exactly like I would expect, or even more chill. Like I'm nervous. I'm sure it happens with all you. There are some like big burly dudes that go straight up fangirl when they see us, and then they like chill and they realize, oh, we're just people. We're just people.
I remember that.
We love to do.
Ben, I remember that time you and I were in Brooklyn, and those construction guys.
Oh yeah.
We're like, hey, are you guys on that show? And they started buying beers, and they like, you guys are like normal people. It's like, well, what do you think we are?
He looked down at my shoes and like, he's wearing Red Wings. Yeah, all right.
I mean, I understand that this show is a lot different than a bunch of the other ones I've been on, because nobody here has a persona that they're trying to put on.
No.
The casting department that picked each one of us picked us for our personalities, and nobody here tries to be somebody else on camera. We're ourselves, and it works out. Hopefully it works out for another 10 seasons. Who knows?
That's funny, because I remember first season. So we didn't know exactly what the feel of the show was. And I remember that's why I like who we are, because we don't play anybody else. We play ourselves, and I bring our expertise and everything else. But I remember I smile a lot. And I remember them all saying, Doug, stop smiling. This is history. Be serious. And I tried my best. As a matter of fact, a couple of times I'm like, wow, you're always scowling in your picture. I'm like, they picked that because I smile a lot, but they will put the ones where I'm not smiling in there. But what I love about it is, as we progressed, they were so cool about basically letting us be ourselves. And that's what comes out. We are ourselves on that.
So, we were talking about, here we are going into season 10. My biggest goal for season 10 for me is to bring the show to a new audience, to bring the show. I mean, we have this wonderfully loyal fan base. The folks who watch our show, but it's like getting it to a new audience and introducing it to people who, almost everybody I've seen who watches the show goes, oh my God, this is so much fun. But it's getting it to that new group of people. And I think as a group, I'm not sure what we can do, but I think,
we'll talk about it here.
With the help of our fans and things like that, we can get this to a new audience. Expand
we can talk about it here. People, if you read this, I was telling Grady, one of the things is once, let's say we know when we're done filming season 10 and we get a couple of months or some off, I'd love to do a travel show where we go to different cities and just do a panel. It's been done for Ancient Aliens and other groups. So it's something that we can go out there and do and plan ahead of time before it happens. So then during our break time, we're still connected. Something we can all talk about.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
Just real quick, the thing I get a lot is like, oh, you're on it. Like, I'll take some person would be like, hey, I know who you are. Can I take a picture? I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. And then somebody else is like, are you somebody? I'm like, no, probably not. But they're like, oh, so I tell them blah, 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 the History Channel on the TV show. They're like, oh yeah, I don't have a TV. And I think that's a huge failing because we're not streaming enough. We have some episode or some seasons on Netflix. But, I think that's a huge problem because there's so many.
Those things are inside of the area that I can affect. So it's what can I do personally on the show or with the fan base or whatever to get this to a new market. That's kind of what I'm looking at. It's like I can't force the network or our production company to do anything that they're not doing already. So it's a matter of trying to line up things for myself and for us as a group where we can get out and about, whether it's local news channels from wherever we are. Ben and I were both here in the middle Virginia area. It'd be great to do a news, how many Smiths are here in Virginia? There's a bunch of us.
Without getting into the plans for this next season, which is going to be absolutely bonkers with all the new formats we're doing, we have a great opportunity in the first segment we do to do just that.
Exactly. But it's one of those things that the groundwork and the footwork has to be done to set things up before those things are actually rolling.
Hey, guys, I got to run. I got a stray dog running around in my neighborhood. I'm going to go help it out.
All right, guys.
I'm going to run.
Well, I'll record this and I'll send it out there. Anybody who wants to be new fans, Dave is going to have an OnlyFans.
By the way, I just want everyone to realize I just received an award. So I am now the world's greatest dad.
Very cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you. And awesome. We'll do this again.